I'm pretty sure I've peed every day. Maybe there's a day I've gone without it.
Dehydration.
Yeah, maybe.
Go ahead.
I mean, I know I've gone a week without pooping.
Okay, it's time to wrap this one up, PJ.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries, of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 100th episode of the Done Lite podcast. I'm your brand new host, PJ Starks. We're coming at you not live from 530 Frederica Street, the white brick edifice. Of course, this is brought to you by Foreman Watson Holtree. It's the same as the white brick edifice. So we're doing something a little different today since we're doing like a Boxing Day kind of a thing. And Travis and I are switching places. Of course, Travis is here. Travis, say hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. So the earphone thing is pretty cool. You've deprived me all of these many 99
headphones.
episodes because it sounds so much better. And I feel like maybe I won't talk too loud, you know?
Yeah.
All these buttons are mesmerizing to me. I've got an L button and an R button, and I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, and all these red lights and dials. Mm-hmm. It's really cool.
Shiny lights.
Playing the part of PJ.
Yeah. Well, you're in much better shape than what PJ normally is.
Well, and you are a lot more talented than what Travis
I thought that was going to go in a different direction, actually. Yeah. So anything new in your world?
Moved Tori into school yesterday.
That's exciting.
For college. She's the baby. So I've been through that routine a few times.
Did you cry?
I had cried before, actually. And, but yesterday, afterwards and stuff, just you reflect and stuff. But
right.
It was an incredibly easy move in. They had things organized well. So, we were able to get her in without any problem.
Yeah. And you've only got one more to go off to college, right?
No. Well,
other than Jack's, of course.
So all of my daughters are either in college or married. So she was the baby.
Oh, she was the last one.
Right?
Oh, yeah. That's right. You did say baby a second ago.
Missy and I we have Jackson will be our last to go to college, and that's several years away.
Yeah. I was going to say, you've got some time before you have to worry.
So yeah, I'm doing good. I was out all day yesterday. So lots to do when I get done with the podcast.
Awesome. Oh, we're going to be doing this for at least 2 hours. So,
you have a big show in store?
I'm long-winded. So.
Okay. So, for those, are you telling them what we've done here?
Yeah, I guess I touched on that a few minutes ago a little bit with the whole idea of Boxing Day. For those who aren't aware of what Boxing Day is, it's actually a European tradition where servants would switch roles with the people of the house. So then, people who were like the homeowners would be the servants, and the servants would become the homeowners. So then, of course, the people who normally don't have to do everything,
doing
it all, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But technically, it's really so it is. I guess it is kind of because I have less to do right now except just.
So one point of clarification about this.
I don't consider myself a servant. Though.
Okay, well, good. But now, when this is over, though, I don't have to go in there and mix video, and you don't have to go in there and talk to clients, right? I mean,
you probably would.
It's
want
only
that
for the podcast.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And
it's not a whole day. It's just for like the next 30 minutes.
So we've now shortened it.
Or 45, whatever.
Well, I've got the headphones on, and I'm watching you like an eagle because I do not want you to touch your microphone base.
Look, I'm so used to usually having my hands under the desk.
Yeah. And I do have this machine.
That's where they're at.
This machine here, and we're all plugged into it, and I'm wearing the headphones.
Yeah, that's called an H6 Zoom.
An H6 Zoom. Isn't it a Tascam?
No.
Oh, it's not.
Mm-mm.
Oh.
We used to use a Tascam, then we upgraded to the Zoom.
Well, actually, it says handy recorder. Well. is it a rather handy thing?
That could be that could be their brand name for it. But
so I got to push the button to start. That was a big deal.
You seem really excited about being able to do that.
I like this. It's powerful. It's like if I touch it, we're done.
Yeah, don't touch it.
Okay, I won't. Oh, yes, I will, maybe.
Well, I mean, you'll have to touch it again to stop.
Okay.
To stop us.
So what do you have in store for us today?
Well, first of all, this Delta variant thing, I can't tell if is it going to get out of hand, do you think?
Well, all I can do is share with you from the experience that my wife is having, as with the COVID center where she works,
right,
Owensboro Health. The number of testing is higher on average the last week than it ever got during the peak of the big wave of COVID.
Right.
The positivity rate is right at or above what it was. And, but on the flip side, they're seeing a record number of people vaccinating as far as their numbers are concerned.
That's good.
So I think the Delta variant is scaring people into vaccinating.
Good. That's
even
good.
Though, the vaccination hasn't proven to be as high of a deterrent to the Delta variant as it did the Alpha.
Right.
So, from our perspective in our household, yeah, it's a very real thing, and it's kicked the numbers back up. And the only difference is we're not seeing all the closures because of vaccination,
Right. Well, someone that I graduated with, my 20-year reunion was actually last year, but because of the pandemic, it got pushed off. So we're actually we're celebrating it this. I don't know. Do you consider it a celebration? Everyone's getting together. We're getting together on Saturday. So we're doing our 20-year class reunion on Saturday. But unfortunately, someone I graduated with just passed away on Monday from getting COVID.
Oh my goodness.
And I mean, from what I'm to understand, it happened like very, very quickly. They weren't feeling very well, and they had some things that they felt they needed to take care of, and they didn't, and this is from what I'm to understand, didn't get checked. And I guess there was probably some underlying health issues that maybe they didn't realize were there, and COVID exacerbated that, and it ended up, unfortunately, they passed away from it. So I would say, and if you're not feeling good, you definitely should at least get checked out. That's, even
right.
if you're an anti-vaxxer or whatever, not saying that that's what they were, but, and I don't know if they were vaccinated or not. I know I talked to somebody yesterday who I'm Facebook friends with, and they just got over COVID for the second time, and they are vaccinated.
Yeah, that's
so it doesn't necessarily,
I think it affects maybe the way it affects you. If you've been vaccinated, you may have fewer symptoms and then be a carrier and not know.
Right.
But hey, is Tyler going to your class reunion?
Well, it's funny. Tyler's the one who convinced me I should go.
Oh, so Tyler will be there.
I didn't really plan on going. Mm-hmm. I didn't know. I kind of forgot, really. And then when I was talking to him yesterday, he asked me if I was going. And at that point, I was reminded. And then I don't know. But between some things that are going on because a part of me is like, it's going to be a lot of people together. No one's probably going to be wearing a mask. So I do kind of have that concern, or had that concern.
Where is it at?
The American Legion.
Okay.
They're doing it at the American Legion. Now they are doing, so they're also doing something Friday.
Just down here with the missile in front of it.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard that place. I didn't know, just a plug for the American Legion. I thought you had to be like a veteran to go there. But my next door neighbor told me that it's open to public and you can go there and that they actually have really good bar food and that it's never an overcrowded situation. Okay. So just as a side, I'm hearing some
Yeah, that is slightly an issue, but it's because we're not in a real studio. There's not a whole lot we can do about it. You're hearing the air conditioning kick on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is there any? Can I hit a button to help with that?
No.
Can I switch one of these little things from 7 to 8? Or
you could,
Here,
but
I want to do it just to make it. Okay. I touched a few
don't go
buttons.
up. Yeah, do it.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Now the 2 that aren't lit, you don't have to mess with those.
Oh, okay.
So only channel 1 and 2. But yeah, I didn't realize because I remember when the American Legion was that parrot restaurant.
Yeah, the blind parrot.
Blind parrot. And I never went in there.
No, it's so.
But now it's.
Yeah, it's open to public. You can go down there for lunch. You can go down there in the afternoon, grab you a drink. It's not just for.
It's like members, not members
only. I think you can get a membership or something. I don't know. But anyway, so that should be a good deal for you, PJ.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Hopefully get to see some. And that's kind of the weird thing too. It's most of the people that are going, I'm already friends with on Facebook.
Yeah.
So you can, to me, the whole purpose of a reunion is to kind of catch up and say hi because you don't know what people have been up to. But the thing is with the advent of social media, you know what everyone's up to.
Right. But
I guess it's that actually being there in person and seeing them and being able to hug them or elbow bump them or whatever.
So man, this is a fabulous job you get to do every time.
You cannot keep your off the levels.
So,
you keep looking at the levels.
Yeah, like when I talk, it's in the yellow. When you talk, it goes up close to the red.
So as long as when it goes up, it can be in the red a little bit. That's fine. As long as it doesn't, there's a light above it that will flash, and that means it's peaking out.
No, you're not peaking out.
So yeah, as long as I don't peak, I'm good.
It just peaked when you peaked like that.
Right. Well, it's good. Yeah.
Okay.
I can adjust all that in post.
All right. Okay.
I can.
Thank God I'm not adjusting anything in post-production. Go ahead. What's next?
So, based on the idea that we're switching places, what I thought would be interesting to talk about today is something that a lot of people seem to have an issue with, and that is change.
Okay.
So I thought what would be interesting to talk about is I recently, we've touched on it a few times, and that is I recently went through a divorce.
Right.
Which is a massive upset in not just my life, but of course Trina's life as well. And then the kids are involved, and then of course it all kind of trickles out. But that in itself is a huge change.
Right.
And one of the services that we offer here is family law, which deals with divorce. And of course, Tyler handled my divorce.
Right.
And so I thought that, so when I was going through it, there's a lot of stigma that surrounds the process or even the idea of divorce. Mm-hmm. When you get married and you're at the altar and you say your vows and you never plan on going in the opposite direction. You're never in that moment thinking one day this is all going to be over. Like you get married in the hopes that the person you're getting betrothed to is the same person you're going to die with. Mm-hmm. And so when I got married, I was extremely immature. I had a lot of growing up to do, but and I didn't really feel like I was ready to get married. But when I did, what that did for me was that changed all that, and suddenly I was thrust into this world of responsibility mm-hmm. and having to kind of reflect on what I thought was most important. So I took my marriage vows very seriously. Like for me, it was, there's a reason you say for better or for worse. The problem that you run into later on, and this is, and before I say that, marriage is something you have to work at.
Absolutely.
You know, even if you're madly in love, it's still to some degree like a job. Like you can't just get married and then sit back and just let it unfold and everything's great. Like you still have to work at it. The problem that I ran into, and of course I'm not going to go into all details just for the mere fact that it's not everybody's business, but you can't be married by yourself. So the person that you're with, in my case, I found out that it was kind of the opposite of where I was at. Like for me, it was, you know, they say better for worse, and I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make it work. The downside is that when the person you're with, they don't view it the same, you can't be married by yourself.
Right.
So no matter how hard you work at it, or try to change things or save the marriage or whatever the case may be, that's not always going to pan out. So in terms of change, I've never been afraid to fail. I've always been the type of person where I'm like, look, try something. If it works, awesome. And it'll open up more opportunities. If I try something and it fails, then it wasn't meant to be, and I can try something different or go in a different direction.
Right.
So failing was never necessarily for me a reason for why I didn't get divorced when I started noticing red flags and issues in my own relationship. But for me, it was despite things I was seeing or experiencing or feeling, I was going to do everything I could to try to make it work. And unfortunately, that doesn't always matter how much you want something to work.
Right.
It's still going to go in a different direction than what you'd plan. So in the end of my own marriage, I was working really hard to try to save something that just could not be saved. And honestly, now that I look back, it didn't need to be saved. But I think, like a lot of people, and these are conversations that I've had, because it deals directly with change, I was scared of not knowing what would come next, because when you're with someone for so long, whether you love them or not, there's a level of comfort, and getting too comfortable can be dangerous because then maybe some people have given up and they're just going through the motions, and but I think ultimately the conversations I've been having since the divorce is that a lot of the same things I went through, a lot of other people, and there's even some people now that I have conversations with about their own marriage, and they're in a similar situation, and I'm not necessarily advocating for them to end the marriage. But, at some point you have to ask yourself, is it worth, if I'm miserable, is it worth continuing this relationship?
Right.
So I guess the reason I'm wanting to discuss this is because one of the things I've noticed is I've talked to people who pretty much say, I'm not getting a divorce because getting a divorce is basically like giving up. And I would they're not saying I would rather be miserable than give up, but that's kind of the mindset that it feels like some people are in, is that they would rather sacrifice their own happiness just to say, look, I have a marriage that's still ongoing. It's not necessarily successful, but at least it's there.
Right.
And that is not a reason to stay in a relationship.
Right.
Children are not a reason to stay in a relationship. Usually you do more harm than good, because the kids are going to be the ones to see, how miserable everyone is.
Right.
I can tell by the look on your face, you're like, man, this is going in a completely more serious direction than what I thought it was going to go.
You're the leader. You're the lead on the podcast today. And, everything you've said, I either echo, or from doing legal work for 25 years, talk to a lot of people who are going through. I've gone through it personally, divorces. And I think a lot of time, not just within families, that the idea of a significant change of anything, if change is our topic here, that it is a damper to people doing something significant in their life. And, fear of change, I think, is somewhat a common human characteristic, because there is a comfort level and a bubble that we get into, and anything that disrupts that brings upon us some anxiety. It's like,
absolutely.
Okay, and so it can be a great deterrent to progress, just the fear of change. I think that's where you were going with our conversation, or what you were saying is that you had to be willing to accept the change,
right,
for you to progress as a person, because you were not progressing as a person in your current in your then current relationship. One of the entire reasons that Foreman Watson Holtree even exists is because I finally had gotten tired of the situation I was in as an attorney, and I wanted the practice of law to look different and feel different and be different. Right. Well, the word different required change. And so I stepped out, and this firm that I'm not saying I created, but the mentality around here I created, and the outlook is, but it was something totally different, and it is totally different than probably any law firm I've been in. I've been in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of law firms, and the way it feels here is different. Yeah. And to do that required change, change a lot of things. Number one, putting family first in our firm, and changing dress codes, and changing, lots of changes were made when I came here. Right. Because I wanted people to look forward to coming to work here. I wanted them to feel safe here. I wanted our clients to sense that we were a family. And so we do things a little different, So I'm with you. I hear what you're saying.
Well, I had a conversation here recently, and I thought it was funny that this conversation got brought up, because it was someone made the joke about ambulance chasing. And then they asked me, they said, so how does it work exactly? Like, do you guys go out and seek people who are injured, or do they seek you out? And, I said, no, they seek us out. I mean, and I think that's the idea with some people. And I'm assuming that's where ambulance chasing even comes from, is that, some people think that we just follow behind ambulances, and when somebody gets injured, we stop and just kind of throw our business cards out the window at them. Right. And no, so I had to kind of explain to them how it works, that no, someone gets injured, or they're in a situation where they are either they know about us already, or they're pointed in our direction from a previous client, or whatever the case may be. And that's how we operate. We're trying to help. We're not seeking the injured. But kind of going back to one of the things that I was so like with Tyler, and how he did my divorce. And I've had conversations with people who it's amazing how when you're going through something, you think you're the only one who's experienced it or gone through it, or and since the divorce, I've talked to people who are afraid to reach out to an attorney, because in their mind they're thinking, well, if I talk to a divorce attorney, of course it's their bread and butter. They're going to want me to get a divorce so they can get paid. Right. And I can say this from a personal experience. And I've known Tyler since high school. Right. So I've known him a long time. And when I went in there and sat down with him, because the divorce was suddenly a real thing. Mm-hmm. And I will say this, divorce was not what I wanted. Right. I fought tooth and nail to try to save my marriage. Divorce was forced upon me. It was, which I find ironic, because now that I look back, it's probably the absolute best thing that could have happened. Right. based on what all was happening within the relationship.
Right. For
me personally, it should have honestly, it should have happened a long time ago. But once again, I was scared of that change. I didn't know what is beyond this relationship was never anything that I didn't want to think about that, because I've never been alone. She was always there.
Right.
So that was thinking anything beyond that was scary. So when I went and sat down with Tyler for that first initial, like, dude, there's nothing else that I can do. She's saying we're getting a divorce. He wasn't immediately like, okay, I'll sign you up. I mean, he sat down and he said, look, have you really talked to her? Are you sure this is what you want? Are you sure this is really what she wants? Did you hear heard it kick? You heard it kick on in the headphones.
Yeah. I can hear everything. It's like, wow.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't help too that like where you sit, you're directly beneath it, but that's neither here nor there. But see, that was one of the things that for one, it was an experience I've never had before. It was brand new, but having Tyler say, look, this is a very serious life-changing decision that you guys are about to make, and you need to make sure before we do anything that it is 100% what you want. Mm-hmm. And so I say all that to say this, if Tyler's going to do that with me, because I'm just PJ, I'm not just some client who called in off the street. If he's going to do that with me, he's going to do that with everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's what, there's a lot of misconceptions about lawyers and their role in representing people. And one of the things that I think people forget is that lawyers that do their job well do earn the title counselor. We are counselors. Now, We're counseling with a tilt toward the legal analysis of what you've come to talk to us about. But a counselor implies that we first listen, and then we analyze, and then we speak. And when someone comes and says, I want to break up a family and I want to clog up the court system for 6 months with this.
Right.
And I want to spend sometimes incredible resources to do it. It would behoove the attorney to hear the person saying, I want to spend a bunch of money, energy, and go through this horrible process, to say, are you sure? Are you absolutely certain? Have you tried everything? Have you had this discussion with your spouse? Have you, and if an attorney doesn't do that, at least in the family law setting, then it's only going to cause frustration on down the road, because you'll get underway and then things will change again.
Right.
You'll get underway and your client will loosen up on the position that he or she wants to take because they hadn't thought through this, and they start to see the hurt on the other side. So, that's a very important function for counsel to do. And it's not just in family law situations. People come to me all the time and, well, I had a contract with someone and it's been breached. And when you assess the financial aspect of fighting to enforce the contract versus what they could actually get, it opens their eyes and they say, well, then never mind. In car wreck situations where we are involved, and thank you for clarifying to your friend that we're not ambulance chasers. Unfortunately, we're living in a time where some of the big firms are paying people to go pull police reports and then they contact them directly,
right?
Which I think is just sickening. When people come to us, they oftentimes say, I don't even know if this is a case where I need an attorney, and sometimes that is a very fair question, because they could probably pick up the phone, provide the insurance company with the medical bills, some photographs of their car and things like that, and probably get pretty close to what we could get them. Now, knowing how to go about that and some of the safeguards, I'm not saying they should, but yeah, they could probably do it without a lawyer, you know. And there have been many times when I've sat down with people and said, you don't meet the threshold, don't have a case to pursue at this point if you end up getting more treatment, you know. So the lawyer's job is to first listen, second analyze, and then take action. Because circling back to what you've made, you know, our discussion about today, you're going to change something, you know, and filing a lawsuit is a significant change for everybody involved.
Right.
Not just the initiator of the lawsuit, but also the person who is being named on the other side of the lawsuit. They're going to get served with a complaint or a petition, and it's going to all of a sudden become something they think about every night before they go to bed, and every day when they wake up is that they have a lawsuit, you know. Yeah. So Foreman, Watson, Holtree, we don't take it lightly when we accept the responsibility of representing people and assisting them in legal matters, because they are life changing, you know. Do you remember the saying that we had a few years back? It was changing lives one case at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Caring lawyers changing lives one case at a time. So it's not, you know, the fact that you, for our 100th podcast, want to discuss change. It is something that's been on the forefront of our minds as attorneys here forever, you know, since I've been here, is that, you know, cases change lives, and the attorneys that you have walking through that with you are extremely important, picking them. And so, yeah, it's a very poignant subject.
Right. And you know, my reasoning behind discussing this wasn't I mean, obviously the podcast is devoted to our firm,
sure,
and, you know, comes from our firm. So at times it's going to seem like a commercial,
yes,
you know, but the main reason I wanted to discuss this and get some of this off my chest is because I've been through it, and I've talked to a lot of people, and I see other people going through a similar situation. And I know there's a lot of people that listen to our podcast that I don't know. And I just feel like if I could go back in time and talk to myself when I was going through certain things in the relationship that I was in that I knew were wrong, mm-hmm. and that should not be happening to me because I didn't deserve it, I would go back and say, look, everything you're afraid of, that you're worried is going to change and that it is going to be a negative change, it's not.
Right.
It's time to move on now. Mm-hmm. Don't wait any longer than you have to. Now, if I could go back in time, I mean, I'll never say I wish I had never gotten with her, because we have two amazing kids, mm-hmm. and I would never undo in a back to the future style, undo mm-hmm. what we did there. Right. So I can't sit here and say that no good ever came from the relationship, because there were good things that did. The issue was there were things happening behind the scenes that even I wasn't aware of that I ultimately did not deserve. So I knew, so if I could go back and tell myself sooner rather than later, you know, maybe after the day after Connor was born, then that's the change that I would ultimately make. But I have talked to a lot of people who are afraid of, you know, they're not happy in their relationship, or they know things are happening. So they're telling themselves, well, maybe it's not what it seems, or it's not as bad as it is, or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, they really aren't as happy, and they're pretending to be happy, and they're saying I'm happy, but really they're not.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to have to think about what's going to happen next. I mean, I can tell you from experience, it's all been positive.
Right.
It hasn't been easy, and it's been emotionally draining.
Good change rarely is easy.
Oh yeah, and this was
rarely is it easy.
Yeah, this was there's some hurdles, of the toughest.
There are setbacks, but change for the good is worth the price.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, sitting in an empty living room in an armchair eating Chef Boyardee spaghetti and meatballs right out of the can. You know, it was temporary.
It gets
and
better.
It's gotten a lot better.
Yeah. You've gotten some new furniture. And,
yeah. So, you know, and if 4 months ago, if you had told me that I would be way happier now than when, you know, than where I was at, I would have been like, no, or maybe even 6 months ago, I would have said no.
Right.
But it's all the change has been really positive. And of course, everybody's been really supportive, and living alone has been actually really cool. It's been nice to be able to like do what I want when I want to do it, and eat what I want when I want to eat it. Now, of course, you know, the downside is that, you know, I'll see the kids every other day or have them every other weekend, so they're not home every day. And I wish that wasn't the case, but
yeah, that's always
but I still see them, and I still call them and talk to them just to see how their school day was and stuff like that. So it's not like we don't have any like communication or anything. So but I would say that's really the only negative is the situation with the kids. But they've been doing, and that's the other thing that, you know, I was really concerned about. It's like, well, get a divorce. How's that going to affect the kids? Now, I'm a child of divorce, and you know, I could say I turned out okay, but I think that's objective.
I think so.
But so that, you know, that was a concern. Like, how are they going to deal with it, especially with Logan, because he has the autism and he usually needs a very specific routine. But because he doesn't do well with change mostly, but with this, he is done phenomenal. I've been really proud of how he's handled this whole situation. He's had no issues. And I think, you know, that's the other thing too, is that they saw how we were together, and then they see how we are now. Now, I don't know what her situation is, but they see me now. And I think everybody I've talked to everyone has said that I have a completely different demeanor and a glow about me. And I think even they're seeing that. So it makes it easier for them to stomach that change. Right. Because they're seeing the positives that are coming from it as well.
Well, good. Change.
So, yeah, that's right. So if you hate your marriage and you're ready to ready for a change, call Tyler Johnson.
And remember the 100th episode of the podcast.
Don't call the Hammer.
No, call Tyler.
Call the Johnson.
Yeah. Wow. So PJ, I have a question for you.
Okay.
I mean, usually that's what you do. I talk more and then you say, well, I've got a question.
Right. It feels weird.
Well, I've got a question for you.
Okay.
Today, you have taken the lead on the podcast, switching roles for the 100th episode. Think in your life, back to your childhood, anything that you have done 100 consecutive times without missing. So what this represents today is that for 100 straight weeks, we have recorded an episode of Law Lite for a podcast, and we have not missed. And I would say in probably close to half of those, we've had guests. Somebody else has spoken, probably in 40% of them. So 100 times consecutively in your lifetime. Can you think of anything else that you have done 100 consecutive times at all?
Urinate.
Okay, great. Other than bodily fluids.
Since I was
100 consecutive weeks.
Eating.
I mean, eat. Okay, so
the basic
things you're going to do. Drive a car, probably, you know.
Well, not even. Well, probably,
maybe not 100
No,
weeks.
because there are some days I don't leave the house.
There you
so
go. 100
even
weeks.
that's not consecutive.
That's
right.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to point out is we made a commitment to do this podcast and didn't really know what we were doing, didn't know how to get it out there. I still can't get it to Hawaii and Alaska.
Yeah, I checked right before we did this. Still no Hawaii, no Alaska.
Yeah, okay. And maybe the switching of roles is all we needed. People needed to know I was in the production of it, right?
Yeah.
But no, what I'm saying is simply this: we should applaud ourselves that we didn't miss. We've stayed committed, and as a result of that, we are seeing growth with the podcast where you'll be out in the community and somebody will say, I heard your, you know how many people have told me about Miss Burns just because they listened. I'm serious. I've had more, probably at least 5 or 10 people, I don't know exactly how many, but like, they'll say, oh, Miss Burns, just because they listened to the podcast last week.
That's awesome.
And so we've done well. And like, it's easy to write a check and to approve artwork for a billboard. It really is. It's a lot easier than making time to produce 100 Law Lite episodes,
Right.
But we wanted to do something different. We wanted to reach people with issues, topics, real life scenarios, and let them see through the window into our firm stuff that they don't get to see very often.
Right.
And so, in wrapping this up, I say, well done, my man. And the fact that we've stayed on task 100 straight weeks is to be applauded.
Well, I have an idea about how we can maybe get Hawaii and Alaska. And I figure we'll use Hawaii as a guinea pig, and that's we can take this remote. So I say you and I,
all right.
Foreman Watson Holtree sends us
with our
to
H6
Hawaii,
handy recorder.
Yeah, I mean,
Zoom recorder.
We can put all this in an overhead bag. We don't even need to
Just
check it
head to Hawaii.
Yeah, we'll go to Hawaii, and that's what we do. And that is how we get, and if it works for Hawaii, then maybe we could do Alaska.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just spitballing here.
I think you may not be onto something there.
Didn't think you'd be up for that, but look, I mean, if we can only afford to send one of us, I would be willing to bite that bullet and go to Hawaii. And
you want me to embrace this change?
Yeah, I'll call you. We'll remote in. And you could be here holding down the fort.
I know how to use the H6 handy recorder. I guess I would just plug a phone into one of these holes on this thing and we'd be set.
Yeah.
Number 3, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right. Well, if it's only 2 of us, then you really only need the second channel. But I can show you how to put it all together with the adapters and everything.
I'll figure it out myself, maybe.
There could be a YouTube tutorial out there somewhere.
All right. Well, do you have some way to get us off this thing?
Is there anything else?
No.
Do you have anything else that you'd like to talk about?
Happy 100th.
Yeah, no, happy 100th.
Yeah. We will be coming up soon. We're not far away. Didn't we do the math? We're 6 episodes away from
our 2-year anniversary.
2-year anniversary, right. And we've got some big things coming up in October. We got to do the 2nd annual Street Brawl Showdown. We got a bunch of new employees that we're going to add to that.
Yeah. I'm going to have to start prepping for our Christmas, even though Christmas it doesn't seem like it's.
No, we'll be starting that at the end of, what did we do this? Almost toward the end after Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Man, we got a lot to look forward to here on the old podcast.
And then of course we have our 200th episode we got to get to.
Yes. 200th episode.
That's right.
We'll make it.
Cool.
Then the question to you will be, can you name something you've done 200 consecutive weeks?
Urinate. I'm pretty sure I've peed every day. Maybe there's a day I've gone without it.
Dehydration.
Yeah, maybe.
Go ahead.
I know I've gone a week without pooping.
Okay. It's time to wrap this one up, PJ.
All right. Well, this has been the Law Lite podcast. I'm your temporary brand new host, PJ Starks. But yeah, you can check us out on all of our different social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Go to our website, fwhlegal.com. You can find out everything and more than you've ever wanted to know about us on our website. You can even check out the podcast on the website.
You can.
And so this is me signing off.
Until next time.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery of a sham, of a mockery of a travesty of two mockeries of a sham.
If we are to have faith and justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free.
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth.